Hi there Booktube, it's Eleanor here and it's time for my Friday Reads video. This week I've had a really good reading week. It's been my first week where I've tried reading multiple books at a time and so far it's going okay. If you've missed my November TBR video where I talk about it, I'm going to try and read multiple books, but I'm going to read one fiction and one non-fiction at the same time, just to see how I get on. I wanted to try this idea of multiple book reading, and so I thought that was the best way for me to sort of separate what I was reading, because non-fiction is very different from fiction. And I haven't quite worked out how I'm doing it at the moment, because I don't want to be too restrictive. I don't want to be like, oh, you must only read that and then you have to move on, because, you know, if I really get caught up into a story, I want to allow myself to get caught up in that story and really enjoy it. So at the moment what I'm doing is I'm trying to read both every day, but I'm not being prescriptive really on how much I have to read. Like yesterday I didn't read any of my non-fiction book. There just wasn't time and there was other things I needed to do. But then consequently the night before I really got stuck into it and I let myself read as much as I wanted. So it's going really well. So anyway, let's talk firstly about my Booktuber Shoutout of the week. The person I'm shouting out this week is someone that I did a joint buddy read with Caitlin from Kitty G this week. And her name is Chelsea and her channel is The Reading Outlaw. I didn't know Chelsea before we organised this buddy read, and I'm so pleased that this buddy read put us in touch and got us chatting, because she is brilliant. She's a librarian, and which I think is excellent and something that I really respect. I'd love to be a librarian, and it's you know, very interesting listening to what she has to say. She's got very similar reading taste to me, and when I heard that she gave A Long Way to a Small Angry Planet by Becky Chambers a 5-star and it's in one of her top of the year, I thought, yes, we're going to be good friends. And so she's really great, she's really interesting. She was really interesting to talk to about the book that I'm going to talk about in a minute, which was the buddy read. And I definitely think she needs and deserves more subscribers. So go check her out. Her details are in the link below, and her name's Chelsea and her channel is The Reading Outlaw. So now on to the books that I've read this week. The first book I read was, as I say, a buddy read, and that was with Caitlin from Kitty G and Chelsea from The Reading Outlaw, and we read Yoni Park's In Order to Live. I received this from Penguin, the publisher, so thank you so much to them for sending this to me. But obviously all thoughts and feelings are my own. This book broke me. It was such an interesting story. If you don't know, because it's been everywhere at the moment, but Yoni Park is a North Korean defector. She escaped from North Korea, and it's about her journey, about growing up in North Korea and about her journey to freedom. The book is split into 3 parts. We have part 1, which is about Yeonmi's youth growing up in North Korea. Part 2 is her time in China, and part 3 is in South Korea. So it's really a very interesting look at some very different cultures and some very different situations. It left me pretty disgusted with bits of humanity and pretty distraught about what these people are going through. I felt, but I know that Caitlin felt the same, I felt the story for the first few parts was quite detached, and I don't know whether that is because it was the only way for me to get her story out without it becoming too hard to write. But I felt it was very factual, it's very interesting, and it pulls you through the story. It's very easy to read. There's nothing that's I mean, obviously there's stuff that's difficult to read, but it's not difficult in the language that it's written in, which I really appreciated. But I felt like it was sort of a non-fiction, and I felt a bit numb to some of the stuff that really should have left me quite distraught. But something happened in part 3, and everything that I'd read about hit me in a big wave, and I was a blubbering mess. This book really packed a powerful punch towards the end. Something happened and everything she'd been through just stacked on top of each other, and it blew my mind, and she's just a phenomenal young woman. And what she's been through is terrible and is by no means singularly just her. That's what makes it even worse. I mean, it's terrible that it happens to one person, but this is happening to thousands and thousands of people trying to escape from North Korea. After reading this book, at the very end she talks about how she gave a talk at the One Young Summit. I watched that and it broke me even further. This is a really important book, and I really suggest, if you've got any interest in North Korea, any interest in hearing a story which, I mean, I'm not going to pull any punches, it will make you think long and hard about how people behave and things in society that are just unbelievable, but I think it's a really important thing to read, and I didn't know a lot about North Korea before going into this, and so it really opened my eyes into the situation over there. So we talked in our group about this, and I debated whether I was going to rate this book, because how do you rate a story like this? But in the end I gave it 5 stars, because I think it's really important that it is rated, because those ratings do draw attention to the book for other people, and I just think it's a really important book that more people should read. So as you know, I'm doing NetGalley November, so the next books that I read were on my Kindle, so I'm going to show you the front cover on my phone of the books. The first one I read is Pippa da Costa's Girl from Above, book 1. For me, this book is reminiscent of Fortune's Pawn by Rachel Buck, although I didn't feel it was quite as well developed. I think if you go into this book and you expect it to be predictable but a fun romp, then you're going in with the right type of mind frame. It was a really fun read, but it was a very predictable storyline, and you could sort of tell where things were going to be going. However, I really enjoyed this. I read it in a day. It's a duology. I've already downloaded the duology onto my Kindle, the second book in the duology onto my Kindle, because I definitely want to be finishing this series. It's told in dual perspective, dual point of view, and we're following Caleb, who is a space smuggler, and we're following issue 1001, who is a synth, which is a robotic creation, but it is made from a real person. So someone that has died has been put inside this synth, so it's meant to have sort of created them as a never-ending robot, so to speak. And so Caleb and 1001's lives collide in a way that I won't tell you, and it's just really about corruption and romance and betrayal, and it's got a really good storyline. I really enjoy the storyline for it. As I say, it's quite predictable what is happening, but I don't think that matters, and I really enjoyed the story, and I ended up giving this one 4 stars. Next, I read the Potion Diaries by Amy Alward. This is a YA book, and I didn't really know what to expect going in, but it was a really interesting premise. In this world, you have talented people with a capital T who are sort of magical people. They have magical abilities, all different types. You have sort of alchemists, which have certain types of abilities, and then you just have your ordinary people. There is a monarchy, and the princess is turning 18 and must pick a person to marry. She doesn't know who she wants to marry. Well, she thinks she does. She thinks she's in love with her male best friend, and so she decides to create a love potion, which goes drastically wrong, and the consequence of that is that a hunt takes place. This hunt is when one of the members of the royal family is drastically ill or in grave danger. The special golden hunt horn sounds and draws all the alchemist families from the country to the castle, and they have to try and create an antidote for whatever is wrong, and the one who wins gets quite a lot of sort of treasure and status. Cami is our female protagonist, and she belongs to a family of alchemists. She is the apprentice to her grandfather, who is the sort of head alchemist in their family, and they are sort of keen on sticking to the old ways. They have a shop stacked full of sort of ingredients, whereas some of the other alchemists have turned to synthetic ingredients and a more modern approach to things. And really this is about the hunt. It's about the hunt to try and find all the different ingredients needed for this particular anti-potion. There's a bit of love in there. It was a really good story. It wasn't mind-blowing, and I didn't really like the romantic element in this. I didn't really feel it, and I have to say I didn't really feel connected to many of the characters, but I really enjoyed the story. However, because of those other things, I only gave it 3 stars. Then the final book that I read this week is Pretty Is by Maggie Mitchell. I really wanted this to be better than it was, but the subplot, one of the subplots, which I can't talk about because it'll be a spoiler, really let it down for me. It's told in dual point of view, from the point of view of two girls who at 12 years old were kidnapped by a man and kept for 12 weeks before they were discovered and went back to their lives. It's about their relationship, it's about Stockholm Syndrome, it's about their lives afterwards. So we flash back to when they're 12 and they have been kidnapped. We're also set in the modern day when they're sort of in their late 20s, coming up to sort of 30, and there's a very good plot idea and it's quite an interesting idea behind the book, but there was just this one subplot that sort of turned it into a bit of a rubbishy crime thriller, which I didn't enjoy, and I just felt that it didn't need to be there, or if it was there it needed to be a bit more interesting, or it just felt very predictable and I didn't enjoy that bit really. I think there was other things that could have been tied up that would have made it a much more interesting read. I don't want to say too much about the plot of this book other than what I've said, because if you do decide to read it, I don't want to spoil what happened for you, but it was a good read, just not a great read, and so I gave this one 3 stars. Then the book that I am about a third of the way through this week is Amanda Palmer's The Art of Asking. This is my second non-fiction book as part of Non-Fiction November. I'm really enjoying it so far. It's certainly not as gripping or as page-turning as Yeonmi Park's In Order to Live, but it is definitely a really interesting book and one that I'm really enjoying taking in and digesting. Amanda Palmer's story and life is very interesting, and the concepts and ideas that she's pulling out of the story are really good as well. In this book, at the end of every chapter, there is the lyrics to one of her songs in her band the Dresden Dolls, and so what I've been doing is when I get to that stage I've been looking up that song on YouTube and watching it so that I can hear it being sung, and that's been really interesting, so I've really enjoyed doing that. So yeah, I'm going to be carrying on working on this one this week. Once I finish that non-fiction book, I'll be picking up one of the other 3 books that were on my non-fiction November list. Either Girls Will Be Girls by Emma O'Toole, I Am Najude, Age 10 and Divorced by Najude Ali, or Smoke Gets in Your Eyes and Other Lessons from the Crematory by Caitlin Doty. So it'll be one of those 3 books that I pick up next after The Art of Asking. You may remember from last week that I picked out 5 books and I've only read 3 of them. I'm partway through the first book in the duology that I have picked out, which is Earth and Sky and the Clouded Sky by Megan Crew. So I will be reading these first this week, but I'm going to pick another 5 books out of the jar because I want to try and keep the momentum going, and hopefully I can get through as many of those this week as possible. I'm really enjoying clearing off my NetGalley TBR, so let's pick those 5 books from the jar now. Here is my trusty jar, and take the lid off. I'll pick all 5 out and then I'll open them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, let's see what we've picked. So the first one is A Whole New World. Next is Witch Hunter. Then I have From a Distant Star. Decaying Empire, and Armada. So that's what I read this week. I'm really enjoying my reading at the moment, so that's really good. And definitely check out Chelsea from the Reading Outlaw because she is wonderful. Anyway, I will let you go. Have a wonderful weekend and I look forward to speaking to you soon. Bye for now, Booktube.